that in single make racing, which is Formula One. It's so much more exciting. And don't forget, he does an awful lot of sim racing. So
entirely. So
he'll have practiced this through all these different situations, and that's what he'll use the sim for, as will other drivers, to literally, the word clues in the name, simulate situations and get experiences. You can metaphorically press reset on a simulator when it goes wrong. Here you can't, but you're a bit more prepared.
Yeah, again, as soon as you get an incident, you have to look down your entry list of 136 cars. 491 is the car at the side of the circuit. It's a Hyundai i30N. So, unfortunately for its two drivers, Ralph Wiesner and Richard Schaefer, one got to start the race, one probably won't have a race at all. But hopefully that car can be moved to a place of safety. And again, I extol their merits every single time I look at a Nürburgring Langstrecke Series race. But the marshalling has to be astonishing here. Because bear in mind, at the start of the race, they're standing there for a very long time before anything comes past. Then eventually they get this rolling, rumble of thunder. And through come 1, 2, 3, 4, 25 or so cars from the top class, nose to tail. Then they get a slight gap, then the others. And then once the race is in its form, in its shape, you have the grouping of cars, the slower cars coming through, minding their own business, having their own battles, and then come the SP9 class cars that lead the field. It's a different game, but when an incident happens, it's how everything, all the communication is made. Verstappen just having to back off a little bit, a production class BMW moving slowly. We've also got a Porsche
there's a yellow flag
given a toe. Yeah,
right
again, it's enough when you're trying to see where the circuit goes here, because it's twisting and turning and rising and falling the whole time. You've also got to be very alert to all the marshals and what colour flags they might be waving. So Verstappen had to back it off. But sometimes you get a moment where the first few cars might get through a zone and then suddenly becomes a slow zone, so everyone else behind them loses ground, or vice versa. And you hope over the course of the race it balances out. But some races you have to go, it fell into my hands today, I'll take it. Or conversely, I'll be fuming behind it didn't fall my way. But what's happened on that lap is Christopher Haase built a little bit of a lead. It seemed to come down, and then he just got it right. And he's about to go through the final corner onto the start-finish straight. Verstappen's coming through afterwards. When they go to the start-finish line, I think the gap will be out to about 3 or 4 seconds. We'll see. So that was Christopher Haase's experience and the fortune of how the battle broke in front of him.
100%, just read it perfectly, and that's where the experience comes in. The second place man, Verstappen, won't be kicking himself on that. He would have done nothing wrong. It's just a whole different situation, and that 1.1 seconds it was has now gone out to exactly as you said, 3.3, so it's tripled in that time, so perfectly. So the estate car is it's a touring station wagon, whatever you want to call it. What is Aston Martin's called? Shooting brake. Marvellous. In the thick of it here, it is running. De Vilder still at the wheel. He started the car. This is the Schubert Motorsport entry, which is currently running in 14th.
Which is where it started, but it's been
did go up to 9th on the Grand Prix, so the first lap, there was so much going on. But it's that, I think, to be honest, we're saying, we're giving it some favour, saying, can it finish? Should it get in the top 10? Why should it be up at the front? It's just a long version of their car. I expect that car to be in the top 10.
Yeah, why not? Well, absolutely, why not? But it's got plenty of company around it. And again, you have to look beyond the top 10 when the field is as good as it is, because he's fighting with Nico Menzel, who, has been racing here forever and a day, and it's really, really good scrap.
I think Menzel's actually got through now on the start-finish straight, hasn't he? By the look of it.
Yeah, and just to confuse matters, of course,
lots of debris.
Lots of debris on the track. Oh, I tell you what, I think that's
a 491.
That's a replay with the 491 on the side. The Porsche we saw being given a tow along the dotting her was the number 30, the Korean Hankyu car. But we mentioned Hugo de Vilde, but of course it's Jens Klingman, his teammate, running that. And in fact, the car in front of him is being driven by Hugo de Vilde because they're both two-timing this weekend in the nicest way possible. And they're both also sharing with Charles Weerts, the Schubert Motorsport, the black and red BMW M4 GT3. So look, listen, compare and contrast. And again, you know, it's busy times. It takes a little bit of management to make sure if a driver's doing racing in two different cars, that their garages are close to each other so they can hop from one, be ready nearby rather than having to go the whole way down the pit lane to find their form. All right, 3.3 seconds. We said Christopher Haase leading in an Audi. How many times have we talked about Audis leading on the Nordschleife? Because the R8 LMS, of course, has been through various Evo stages, Evo 2 stages, but it's always been a car that's gone very, very well around the Nordschleife. But what we have found is some cars, when you get to the hotter temperatures, in the summer races, suddenly the advantage might be with a different manufacturer. But right now, certainly nothing wrong with the Mercedes. That's all over the tail. Closing back in again, worth pointing out. The Audi had got clear, as we said, 3.3 seconds, but Verstappen now halfway around this lap number 4. There's other drivers, including Frank Stipper, already sort of standing in their pit garages waiting to have a go.
Limbringer.
Yeah, exactly. The gap's come down to about a second. And what the drivers crave, of course, as you're chasing is clear track up ahead. But sometimes you see a gaggle of cars and think, is the driver who's in front of me going to have an advantage going past them? Or I might find an advantage. This moment, Christopher Haase has had a VW Golf minding his own business, but it rather went into the path of where he wanted to go. He was compromised. Verstappen was not compromised as he came through behind. So advantage Verstappen is down to about a second now between first and second places.
But catching is one thing, getting past is another, and there's going to be an awful lot of traffic in their way when they catch up with this other group in a minute. But all to play for here, as you say, from 1.1 to 3.3 back down to a second again.
It is a seesaw.
All the sake of effectively about 2/3 of a lap, really. They've crossed the line that time, but
just want to say that one of the things I love at the start of the season is looking at. I mentioned a lot of the crews have got different liveries this year. If you're a Texan racing fan, I can introduce this. So this is down to Russ Turner, car number 180, which is running in the SP10 class, which is for GT4 class cars, is looking immaculate. It's BMW M4 GT4, but it's painted like Johnny Rutherford's helmet with the flag of Texas over the top. That's a mention of great IndyCar drivers from long ago. But he's showing that with Danny Stripling from Dallas and Justin Holt from Houston. Quite a strong Texan theme there. The car looked fantastic, I must say. And I'm not against a national livery or a state livery. And it's blue and it's red and it's white and it's got the Texan stars on it. And even better, it's got a fantastic battle. 2 equivalent BMW M4 GT4s are right in behind, and a couple of other cars as well. I'm trying to remember what I've seen in the mix. But again, just to reiterate, you race against cars in your class. You might all be in a field of 132 race starters, but you might have 12 cars in your class. They're the ones you have to contend with. You have to keep out of the way of very quick cars from the front groups, but they're the ones you score points against. You either take points off them or they take points off you. But it's not, for drivers coming across from Texas or anywhere in the world to race here, it's a lot of logistics. You get here, and then the track is the reason you're here. And then the fact you're racing with people hopefully of similar performance, and you have a good scrap. Sometimes you can be running 10 end of your class, but having an absolute ding-dong, but you might be in the lead of your class. Imagine that, and you're way clear.
I think a lot of drivers will say that to you, that they would just like to have a battle. And sometimes it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be for the win. It doesn't have to win for the class even. They enjoy, if you're a racer, you just enjoy having that race, a good, clean battle, and it's almost irrelevant whether it's podium, front, winning, whatever, until it comes down to a championship. Then it's different.
Yeah, of course. But for a lot of the drivers, seem to have another slow zone around the back part of the circuit. Waiting to find out exactly where that is. Incident between Kano and India. We'll tell you who has Klostertal. Okay. So again, drivers have to just constantly be on their toes. So Klostertal, very quick part of the circuit before you suddenly turn right, go sharply up the hill to the north, to the carousel. which is precisely where our first two cars are going. Still the Audi of Christopher Haase, still leading Mercedes of Max Verstappen. Bright parts of the track, deep shadow from this beautiful spring day at the Nordschleife, and they come across the Porsche Cayman. The Audi goes through, no trouble. Verstappen gets slightly blocked by it and has to go further to the left of the circuit as the track went to the right to go around the other. And it's about just losing a little bit of momentum and then catching it. And right now, talk about catching it, nearly taking the bumper off the back of the race-leading Audi. BMW production class cars keeping out of the way on the right-hand side of the circuit. The race leader, the second place Verstappen, Mercedes, going around. Suddenly they've got clear track ahead of them, but they can't see far because the track twists, it turns, it rises, it falls. Next group of cars, they come across them quickly. I was about to say they'll see some. They already have. But where will they find them? Will the advantage go to Haas leading the race, or will it go to Verstappen going through the second of the carousels? That means they're getting towards the place where they get unleashed along the Dottinger Höhe. Once they turn right, fairly sharp right, to Galgenkopf. Then, who's going to carry momentum on the straight? We saw at the end of the opening lap, did we not? The Audi came out, got into the toe, edged closer up this really long straight, the tail of the Mercedes, and then went past long before it came to the left. But this time, just enough of a margin for the Audi to keep Verstappen from out of his toe. Waved yellows on the start on the Dottinger Höhe, though.
Top carving toe back there, but this is an absolute masterclass from Christopher Haase. He is demonstrating all his skill, all his experience, reading the traffic there. You just remember Senna and Mansell Monaco in '92 when Senna just slowed the car down enough coming out of corners, not to block, not to balk. Haas is doing exactly the same. He's reading the traffic, and just as soon as he came onto the Dottinger Höhe there, you notice he jigged to the right to immediately break the toe to the second place car behind him. As Verstappen moved across, he went back to the left again. He's not changed the direction, it's not a problem, he's not challenging at that point. He's just disturbing the airflow so he doesn't, that car behind, doesn't get the side drop and pull up with. It's exactly how he got the lead off him in the first place, and not letting you have it back again. I think this is absolutely superlative driving from Christopher Haase.
It really is. We've got some fantastic battles, not so much further back. And the person who's making the moves is Tobias Muller. Probably the least experienced. He's sharing the number 48 Porsche Losch Black Falcon entry, and he's right on the tail of BMW's in front of Augusto Farfus, and tucked in behind the Ferrari's been going backwards because that's the one that's fallen down. Thomas Neubauer, side by side contact there. The blue-white Ferrari swapping paint with the Porsche. The BMW just up in front. That's Augusto Farfus. He's been there, seen it, done it. And the second of the Rover BMWs joined the tail of this trio to make it a quartet because Dan Harper is closing in. But that was a little bit, we don't like to see too much contact, or any contact if we can possibly help it. But anyhow, it was side to side rather than nose to tail, so at least it was not likely to pitch the Porsche off. But a rub there. So a little bit of ambition from Thomas Neubauer didn't work on this instance. But great to see this racing this early in the season. We must say, though, however, that of course our race leaders, Haase and Verstappen, are pulling ever further clear. They've all of the drivers at the front end of the field would have had to contend with traffic, where they found it, how they passed it. But the first two covered by 0.8 of a second. Then there's a gap of 13 seconds back to David Pittard. Pittard all on his own, he's 7 seconds clear of the best of the rest. In fact, the cameras have hardly fallen on his car since he got up to third place on the opening sequence of corners. But he's probably quite happy now. He'll be in his measure, but it's in behind from Farfus, Tobias Muller, Thomas Neubauer, Dan Harper, nose to tail, then just a little bit further back, may be able to catch up again, is the best of the Aston Martins. Matteo Trudi started well, but has fallen down a little bit. He's in 8th place for Walker Horse Motorsport.
I mean, that's a great start from Pittard, who was 6th on the grid, got to 3rd, literally about 3 turns into the first lap, didn't he?
Yeah, he was effectively 5th on the grid, because remember, the second of the Winwood racing Mercedes was starting from pit out. Actually, I haven't checked that it did get out of pit out. It's got its problems. Maxime Martin is down in 33rd position. We'll see. So clearly something not quite right. Disappointing for them. Up front, though, it's a fantastic battle, but it's the gaggles of cars. It becomes more and more complicated and more likely to lose several places when you've got 3 or 4 cars close together coming across the traffic, because you lift off a little bit, someone's riding your tail, they may have had a better line of sight and they can see where the car in front is moving and what might be happening. But actually, as I say, that battle from Augusto Farfus to Dan Harper has closed in all over again. It's stretched a bit around the back part of the circuit, but as they start the next lap very close together. This is the moment where Thomas Neubauer went up the inside of Tobias Muller's Porsche into turn 2 and clattered into its flank. In fact, Muller was a little bit hesitant turning into turn 2. There was no hesitation from Thomas Neubauer, but anyhow, push luckily didn't come to anything worse.
I was going to say on initial sight of that, it was a bit clumsy. I think it was actually just a bit of hesitation to pull the Ferrari out. So, where do I go? Excuse me, I've got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And tried not to clatter into the other car, but unfortunately, a little bit there. If anything, I think the Ferrari actually saved a bigger incident there.
Yeah, I agree. There was definite hesitation from Tobias Muller. He was very close to the BMW of Augusto Farfus in front, and it was just one of those things that happened. But right now, Muller has now got onto the tail of Augusto Farfus. He just marginally pulling clear of the Ferrari of Thomas Neubauer, the car that took his door, and the one that just lost out actually through Hatzenbach. And out of that is the car fourth in that group, the second of the Rover BMWs of Dan Harper. So he's got to do all the hard work again to play catch up on that front.
But and again, another man that we've not mentioned enough yet, but overly qualified for this part of the BMW Junior team that's now been temporarily disbanded. I say that because I'm convinced they'll come back again. BMW probably don't know that, but I think they will. I think these things just
have a habit.
They're cyclical, aren't they? It just happens. But Neil Verhagen, another one of his teammates in that BMW Junior team, and Dan Harper knows this place like the back of his hand as well. Great to have Ian McCarthy on board with us again. Good to have you back, enjoying another NLS season. He has just pointed out on X that Max is the new boy here. He is relatively, but he has raced in 2 classes in 3 very different cars, and of course one around here. So he's had quite a bit of seat time.
Yeah, it sort of goes
as ever. Put it in perspective, yes.
Yeah. But again, I mean, to race this in one sort of car is one thing, but to learn. I'll just pause my conversation for a second because suddenly we have Verstappen all over the tail of Christopher Haase. Where's the traffic up ahead? Haase actually, when you look how dynamic these cars are, they're not nailed down. I think you can say that because Haase's Audi was really shifting around, little bumps around the back part of the circuit. And again, I just have to keep emphasising the narrowness of the circuit.
It's because they're proper racing cars. They're a bit loose. They're a bit leery. Just what you want.
Yeah.
You've got to get the scruff of the neck and drive the thing. But is Christopher Haase under pressure here? No, because what his view will be is it's just another driver. He won't bother who it is when it doesn't. He actually expunge that from his mind. It's not Verstappen. It's just another person in a Mercedes. Deal with it, and that's absolutely the right mental approach to this. Until he beats him, then he takes the glory, of course, and the credit.
Yeah, something like that. Right, it's good. It's clearly been quite dry because Haase just cut one of the corners, as you do, make it the shortest route around a lap, and basically went, take that, Verstappen, and gave him a face full of dirt in his face because the right-hand tyres were just over the serrated curbing, but it's all fair and love and war. Oh, what I'd like to see, though, is a camera behind Verstappen's car, because that too will be moving around, because they're not tiptoeing, they're thrashing these cars and just moving around as they go, because if it's nailed onto the circuit, it's probably not quite as quick as if you can take and adjust your linings the way they can.
You talk about stones and dirt being thrown up in a GT3 race almost 20 years ago now in Parc Ferme. I had an extremely irate Frenchman wanted to basically kill me in the Parc Ferme, and I genuinely didn't quite understand. I thought, well, I did the second stint, obviously I did the Parc Ferme, and I don't think I've done anything. Don't recall any instance with this car or whatever. And very notable by his absence was my teammate in the Parc Ferme, a certain Phil Keane. Yeah, and it wasn't until we got out of Parc Ferme and the whole situation had been diluted, dissolved, and whatever, that Phil admitted to me quietly. The guy said, "Oh yeah, he was annoying me." He used a different term earlier in the race, and he'd done exactly what you just described. He'd run wide deliberately. This was at Brunei, and fired a load of stones and bits into the driver behind, basically to put him off and slow him down a bit. I was then getting the blamed for this. It's like, thanks. So there you go.
Teammates. Where's the mate bit gone out of that?
Exactly.
Right, on to another lap. Christopher Haase leading the race, but by
Maybe not for long.
a car length. Verstappen, this is a shorter straight. It's a start-finish straight. When you make a dive down the inside, I don't think so.
Haas has got it covered. If you want to go around the long way, my friend. So what he'll try and do now is switch back through the inside. Indeed, he does. Haas runs a little bit wide. Max Verstappen doesn't quite get the job done. He's over to the right-hand side. He's all over the back of this Audi. Looks a little bit more nimble. I never thought I'd say an AMG GT3 was nimble. Max using all the runoff area to the right-hand side there. He is glued to the back of that Audi. How the splitters and diffusers haven't met and got married. They've certainly got engaged, haven't they? But Haase is still holding on to it. And again, I repeat it, this is an absolute masterclass from Mr. Haase there, showing all his experience. It's not his first rodeo. It's not his first race round here. He doesn't care who's in that Red Bull Mercedes behind him. Point is, he's behind him, and that's where he's staying.
Yeah, absolutely so. But where's your best opportunity pass? It's on the Grand Prix loop. Didn't happen into the first corner. Had a look into turn 3, where you're turning sharply left before you release to the right to turn 4. Didn't work for the Mercedes driver. So the Audi of Christopher Haase still in front of Max Verstappen. Best the rest. How far back now is David Pittard in 4th place? He's 25 seconds further back. But the bad news for the KCMG Mercedes driver is that gaggle of 4 cars behind are right behind him now, because Augusto Farfus is just under a second down of his tail. Now, I tell you what, Pittard's the one who's lost out. Muller in the Porsche, the one who had a side strike a while ago, has gone up into 3rd place, Farfus to 4th, Neubauer to 5th. So the gaggle's not just caught Pittard, they've passed him. He's down in 6th place at the start finish line. And Mirko Bortolotti, I've just been looking, the Lamborghini driver started outside the top 10. The last time around he was 10th. This time around he's up to 7th place overall. This is a Huracan, not yet in the Temerario, but Bortolotti and the other regular drivers will be moving closer and closer to the front end. So good to see Mirko having a real stab at this. And over the years, Snow, we've talked about how Lamborghini just don't get the success you think they get here. They've had so many strong races, but in the last 2 years, the ante at the front has got so much greater that it's even harder having a cameo role, because you have to be, to get to the front, you have to be capable to keep that speed going. They had the speed before over the years, a Conrad car, but never enough to sort of win the race. But with the crew in number 930, it's a very, very strong crew. What am I talking about? 130, not 930. It's Luca Exler, Mirko Bortolotti who's in the wheel, Marco Mappelli, long-time works Lamborghini driver, and Patrick Niederhauser, who had a fantastic year, became a GT World Challenge Endurance champion. So names like that, we are talking tip-top GT3 drivers, but here they are, different cars, same circuit, really going for it.
I know that the Lamborghinis just never seem to be rewarded with the results that their speed and their sound so richly deserves. They're always the bridesmaid, aren't they? They're just there, but never quite catching the flowers.
Yeah, they can sniff them, but they can't take them home. Anyhow, we are the beneficiaries of just the most fantastic race at the very front of the field. But the fact is that now we've got this incredible battle over 3rd place. David Pittard, course and passed in the KCMG Mercedes, but maybe he's got tyre life in it. He can stay in that group. Multi-manufacturer, which is always good news. But something a little bit cloudy at parts of the circuit now. But just as I say that, the cars at the front of the field, Christopher Haase's Audi and Max Verstappen's Mercedes are back into full sunshine. Fans around the outside of the circuit almost every point they can.
Fehler. Kein Entkommen. Nur Asphalt, Adrenalin und die Legende. Die grüne Hölle vergisst nicht. Sie verzeiht nicht. Jede Kurve ein Kampf, kein Platz für Schwäche. Die Nordschleife ist kein Ort für leere Versprechen. Sie ist der Ort, an dem sie gehalten werden. Engineered for the Green Hell. Offizieller Partner der NLS.
Liebe Fans, Fans, besucht uns auf unseren Social Media Kanälen, follow us
auf Facebook, Instagram,
YouTube und TikTok.
Willkommen bei der NLS.
Not being a commentary contradiction.
We can. And so, a brilliant early spring day on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And we've got a cracking race to get the season properly underway. Handful of little incidents. We've seen the rescue crews out on the circuit, retrieving a couple of cars, including the number 30 Hankook competition Porsche, the 491 Hyundai. Seems to have clattered the barriers, scattered some debris, but the rescue crew is doing an astonishing job of not just getting the stuff off the circuit, but also the marshals just making the messages crystal clear for the drivers. And we now have 6 laps on the board. And it's still Audi from Mercedes. It's still Christopher Haase by 0.9 of a second. He stretched his legs at the Mercedes and Max Verstappen. But just to reiterate, the first driver to blink and come in to make a pit stop was KCMG. I'm sure that was running a lonely third. But Nerei Fukuzimu's taking that over from David Pittard. And by having that pit stop early, it does mean it's a shorter pit stop, but then their final pit stop will also be early relative to their rivals. That'll be a longer pit stop for them. But I'm sure it's something they worked out.
So the next question is, which of these, with the 2 leaders, is going to pit first, or simultaneously?
I would reckon simultaneously, because
I think so.
We tend to get, if you have clear running, everything sort of is perfect. You get an 8-lap stint around here on a tank of fuel. But when you've had the formation lap as well, 7 laps is when you expect them to come in. What have we got on the board? We're on lap number 7. So, can any advantage be gained by Christopher Haase or by Max Verstappen on this lap? But also, will either of these drivers stay in for stint number 2 as well? Verstappen's car is sharing with Jules Gounon and Danny Juncadella, so it gives them both a go. He might do a double stint. They have 1 stint each, but the car he's racing against, Christopher Haase, only has 1 teammate, Nico Hanke, so he will probably do the second stint, then hand over to Hanke to do 3 and 4. But what do I know? I'm in a commentary box, I'm not the team manager.
And the theatrical part of my little brain is picturing these 2, both pitting, changing drivers, standing there and having a Top Gun moment where, basically, Christopher Haase says, "You can be my wingman anytime." Can you just imagine? It's a bit of theatre, so indulge me.
Yeah, so he spent his childhood in a movie theatre.
In a bubble.
But bubble's good. Bubble's good.
I think it was more of a vortex. But anyway.
So, actually, having talked to Sean a while ago about how things were going in SP10, which is a class that gets better supported every year, better variety. I better tell you who's leading that. That's the class for GT4 class cars, and it's car number 176, Jörg Wiebahn, a driver with a huge amount of experience around the Nordschleife that's coming out on top at the moment. That's the Pro Sport Racing Mercedes. And he's showing that with Yannick Himmels and Anton Abe. So he's the most experienced of that crew, but he's in the front of that class. So just working through. Car number 170 is second in that class, which is a Toyota Supra. So we have this variety. That's the all-Japanese crew. Kazuto Kataka at the wheel and Miki Koyama will be taking over at some point. And third in class, we mentioned it before, it's the Texan car. car number 180, the BMW M4, and it's Ogborn at the wheel of that at the moment. I've had a few drivers swapping because I thought Russ Turner was in that car, but I see he's listed in car number 177, which is in 4th in class. Anyhow, we'll try and hammer that out, but the good thing about it, it's a fantastic nose-to-tail battle in that group, which is just what we want to see.
You did mention at the very beginning on the formation lap, Bruce, of the variety of manufacturers, and you just talk about the drivers all the time and focus on this a lot in this first stint where we're just going up to our first of our leaders. Pit stops very shortly, I suspect, possibly at the end of this lap. But currently we have Audi leading from Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, Lamborghini. How cool is that? A bit of a variety.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But also, just that we said at the start of the race, you can't only. It's easy to focus on what's happening at the front of the field, but you have class battles, and we have the SP10 class. All 5 cars, the top 5, as it gets the Climate Carousel, are covered by one shot. They're covered by 2 seconds. So we're very near to the end of the quarter point in the race. We're nearly up an hour. We've got another 6.5 minutes to go, but 1st to 5th in SP10. Yeah, they're running down in 46, 47, 48, 49 to 50th position. Not nose to tail, but the next closest thing, probably half a second between each of them. Then they run along the Dottinger and the car that's leading the class just gaining a little bit of a margin, and the Texan liveried BMW M4 tucking in behind, not getting a toe, but not enough to draw it up. Or is it? Again, just keep on forgetting how long that run is along past Dottinger, and then you go towards the very end of the lap to Hohenrain, where it tightens up a bit. But yeah, I think class lead still staying there. But great battle, but they've got 3 more hours of this. Isn't that good? Mercedes leading the class.
So just looking at where they are on circuit now, we are at the highest part of the circuit, aptly named Hoher Act, high point in German. That leads down to Wipperman that starts the downhill run. I think we might have these cars in on this lap. I'd be intrigued, Bruce, as we said, we've discussed various possibilities of strategies. We are commentators sitting in the luxury of a commentary box looking out and down upon these cars and watching them, not team managers. They will have different ideas, and we will put forward all our theories based on our lack of experience over the years and doubts to be proven wrong. When it's right, it is pure luck.
Yes, no more. Every single time, pure luck. The number 80 Mercedes, that qualified 5th, it's the second of the Winwood Racing AMG GT3s. That's in the pit lane. When you see dolly jacks being put underneath the car, you normally think, oh, going to be wheeled back in the garage. But when you're here, they just have to get them round to a 45-degree angle in the pit lane because there isn't enough space for everyone to be parked parallel to the front door of a garage. They don't even get a garage each. You have multiple cars in these deep garages at the Nürburgring. But certainly for the 2 AMG Mercedes entered by Winwood Racing, the bonus, the favour is very much in the one that's car number 3, running second in this race, and about a tenth of a second behind the race-leading Audi. It's the one Max Verstappen is driving, pedalling hard. Now, end of this lap, we reckon these first 2 cars from first and second in the race will come in to make the first of their 3 standard pit stops in this race. It's a 4-hour race. You divide it down. Don't forget, they had the formation lap, the mere 25 kilometres. But who is going to blink? I think they're going to blink at the same time. But Verstappen has got the toe. Down the straight they go.
Yeah, it's always going to happen there because Hasse was held up by the cars where he didn't want to be onto the Dottinger. So that has unfortunately played back into Verstappen's hand. Although Hasse is not letting it happen. I don't think he's going to get it. He isn't. I don't think he's going to get it. I think Hasse's going to literally side by side. No, we've seen this before. He's going to have to acquiesce. He's going to have to let Verstappen through. But I'm not convinced he's going to do it in a hurry. He's not. They're through the kick. They're side by side. They are literally touching here. Hasse has to let it go in the end. Max Verstappen retakes the lead. Finally, some 6 laps in after losing it at the very start.
But are they going to dive straight into the pits, having made the move? Verstappen? Yes. Hasse? Yes. Okay, a little bit of pride restored for Verstappen there. Great racing, but that just absolutely goes to show one little bit of interruption just as you come into the long straight, and you can find all your oaths and swear words because it's frustrating. Doesn't mean much overall. Now, let's see how the pit stops go. Verstappen will come in to a standstill. Winwood Racing crew in position there. Those towards the garage, they will swing that car around.
Please leave them both in these cars so they can carry on racing. Taking nothing away from our new race leader, Max Verstappen there. That was not down to him. He is jumping out of the car. That was down to traffic. He took the opportunity, but the opportunity presented it to him.
Right. I expect all the front-running cars to come in, and there isn't a rush in the pit stops here. It might look really quite languorous as driver change being made, but their pit stop has to be a minimum of 328 seconds from pit in to pit out. How do they produce these numbers anyhow? Someone's got a slide rule. That's what it is, from pit in to pit out. And let's hope nobody undercuts that time. We see it race in, race out, right across the globe in motor racing, in endurance racing in particular. And nothing drives a team manager up the wall more than someone nipping out of the pits or being signalled away from their pits. Right, indication there from Max Verstappen with his hands. There's a bit of understeer at the moment, so that's being taken on board. Danny Juncadella will be going second in that car, red and white helmet of the Spanish racer. Very, very smooth individual. He's doing that going to be doing the second stint. We'll see who gets it. Well, have we spotted Hasse getting out of his car? The focus has been on the Verstappen car. I reckon Hasse might stay on board. Well, it depends how he feels, because his young teammate Nico Hanke is the only other person. There's been a late change on the entry list. We do have quite a fluid entry list in the NLS. You get the entry list issued every Wednesday, but extra names get added and taken away over the course of the intervening days. But certainly we can tell you that's Danny Juncadella who's about to take over the number 3 Winwood Racing Verstappen.com Mercedes. And with Jules Gounod in the sidelines, he'll be hyper enthusiastic to have a go as well. But you can hear a lot of air guns going off down the pit lane, because pretty much everybody, as predicted, has come in to play. Yeah, everybody had to hit. Yeah, well, that's as you'd expect. We might expect the Cup 2 Porsches to come through and do another lap. Not yet at 1 hour mark of the 4 hour race. We've got 1 minute to go on that.
Now, of course, didn't pit early.
He did.
So
he pitted on lap 5.
So that's going to put him nicely at the sink now, to his advantage.
Yeah. Don't forget, early you do the pits, your pit stop will be shorter. So we get the situation, it may well be, when the Audi and the Mercedes, or the Mercedes and the Audi as they were, tell you what, it's back to being Audi ahead of Mercedes, because I paused because we're waiting for the Audi to be released. Its pit area was further down towards pit exit. And Danny Juncadella was going in the fast lane of the pits, but the Audi just hauled itself back across. Don't know if it's Nico Hanke yet, or if it's still Christopher Hasse, but we do know Verstappen is Hanke.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So that was super tight, just what the doctor ordered. Can't complain, won't complain. But having just ceded the lead by that brilliant, misfortune of being caught by traffic going onto the long return straight, the number 16 Audi just being towed past by Max Verstappen, who was not taking no for an answer, was he? As he decided when he went to the King Hohenrhein, he was still coming through, but by dint, let's hope their pit stops were both under 328 seconds. Otherwise, they'll be getting a time penalty.
I'm just so hoping my little sort of theatre is happening now that Verstappen's going to Hasse's pit and just gone, "You're good, mate. You're good." This kid's good.
Yeah, would he be in my team?
Because that's what he wants. That's exactly what he wants. He wants a challenge. Doesn't want to just go all away and have 5-second win, 10-second win. He'll want a challenge. So the battle is recommenced. It is interesting you said that little bit of traffic gave Verstappen the moment. He saw it, took it, made a good most of it, got the lead into Tiergarten finally. Christopher Hasse did not make it easy for him. They did trade quite a bit of wine on the way up.
Right, what I need to see on a track map is where is Niro Fukuzumi in the KCMG Mercedes, because remember that it went out to about 20-odd seconds, 25 seconds maybe, when David Pittard was off the tail of the battling Audi and Mercedes, the 16 and the 3 that were in the lead of the race in that opening stint. His pit stop will be 22 seconds slower.
He's on the other end, he's just finished at the back. 22
seconds shorter for the early pitting KCMG Mercedes, which should put it back on the track about here.
It's just behind them.
Just behind
this group now.
Okay. Take a face for the Audi again. Ahead of the Mercedes, the Scherer Sport car kicking up the dirt. This time it's Danny Juncadella who's going to be blinking as the dust comes in. And Well, I'll tell you what, he obviously blinked to miss his breaking point because he's got ahead by the next corner as they go past Hansenbach and moving swiftly on towards Arenberg. That was a lot of intent. You don't often get clear overtaking manoeuvres with no traffic involved. But when you put Danny Juncadere against Nico Hanke, who's taken over the Sport PHX Audi, you sort of expect, in terms of experience, there's quite a difference, it must be said. I mean, what's the age? Nico Hanke just turned 23, but a couple of last year, 2023 is racing GT4s, last year racing GT4s. This is his first year stepping up into the big guns, the SP9 GT3 class cars. So it's better he seeds a position under pressure there from Danny Juncadere than tries to fight it. Settle in, and one of the best ways of learning a circuit is to follow a master, and Danny Juncadere is very much that. But the key is to stay with him, and at the moment Nico Hanke's falling back. In fact, get the telescope.
If you can keep up, exactly.
But he'll be learning. He'll see a handful of corners. Go, okay, got it. But also, he's wanting to feel confident in the heat in the tyres. Other matters that drivers consider important.
It's also a recipe of jeopardy as well, that you can follow somebody into the ball. I should be able to do what they're doing, and you can't. You've got to be yourself. You've got to know your car, know your limits. And if they're quicker, they're quicker. There might be a different reason for it. Don't fall into it.
Yeah, so many things to be considered. But the worst thing to do is trying to go too hard too soon. If you're not fully confident, because that's where you might hesitate. And hesitation never good when going on the brakes or on the throttle. But anyhow, well, that was a really interesting run into the pits. Mercedes number 3 having just taken the lead, Max Verstappen brought it into the pits. By the time they went out, the number 16 Audi, Christopher Haase, handed over to young Nico Hanke. And Hanke got out ahead, but not long after they got onto the Nordschleife itself. Face full of dust as Hanke ran a little wide with extra momentum. By the time they got to the next corner, some distance away, Danny Juncadere into the lead of the race. Beautiful move, brought from experience. And again, just noticing, hold on, he's run a little bit wide. He can't get the power down just yet. He's got dust all over his tyres. Yeah, I've got more speed. I'm putting my Mercedes into the lead of the race.
So I've just got a very quick update. Remember I said at the very beginning that our guy that just got the licence in the 112 325, Stuart McLaren, Happy Nessa and Sam Holman. I said that car didn't quite make it around the formation lap. He just messaged me privately and said, unfortunately, gearbox issue today during quali has kept us from racing. So obviously they tried it on the grid, it hasn't. So what a shame. All that work, get your licence, and then don't even do the first few corners of a 4-hour race. But Stuart, I'm sure you and the rest of the team will be back very shortly. The next round 3 come back. You've got your licence now. Get on with it.
Unhappy Nessa is just to be called. That's a stage name, if you will. Right, well, it's been a cracking fight. This, so far, just got to see, can Nirei Fukuzumu stay close to the lead duo? He knows his final pit stop's going to be longer than theirs, but it almost gave him that thing, track position, which certainly can be quite a factor around here. Don't forget, the car qualified very nicely. 6th fastest by David Pittard, the KCMG Mercedes. Yeah, Pittard in the Mercedes this year, get used to it. But have to see how the crew can fare, because if they can fight with the lead 2 cars, well, that will give them a lot of confidence and be great. But clearly, in terms of regular race pace, the number 3 Verstappen.com Mercedes and number 16 Sport PHX Audi are the class of the field. But don't forget, it's not just one driver doing all 4 hours, so we will have a rotation through drivers, and some cars will gain as another driver takes over. Some will lose out a little bit, but one that definitely was worth watching, seeing how it fares after the pit stops, is that the best of the Lamborghinis, which was Mirko Bortolotti's car, that had risen from outside the top 10 to 7th place overall. We'll let them all settle down. Oh dear, a Toyota Supra has left the pit lane, just gone over the dotted white line into the line where you feed out, and has come to a halt with half of the car on the grass. So that's someone's having a very, very short stint in the car. Now, it was the car that was right at the sharp end, second in the GT4 class. I think Kataka in the Toyota just handed over to teammate or vice versa, but that is not going anywhere at all.
See from our camera footage at the end there, looking in through the sort of foreshortening across the track there. There's a bit of driver work going on, so trying to do an alt control reset. I'm sure obviously that car can't stay there. It's no real problem where it is, but you don't want anybody batting down the pit straight, trying to go down the inside and suddenly finding a Supra on the pit exit. So that car will need to be removed by the authorities and officials at some point fairly shortly, if it can't do so under its own steam. So, meanwhile at the front, it's Danny Yunkadea in the Winwood Mercedes, currently leading from Hanke in the Shearer Sport Audi. That's swapped around. I'm looking for the fastest times of the race so far. Fastest lap by Max Verstappen in that Mercedes was a 7:53.5. Christopher Haase, I said he was on fire, 7:52.7.
That's proper.
It is, isn't it? I think you covered that there.
That was about lap 3, I think.
Yeah.
That was a lap that he gained about a 3-second margin, and then the traffic worked against him. Right. Cracking battle now. Unfortunately, Nico Hanke falling back a little bit, but Neri Fukuzumi had taken the KCMG Mercedes pass, and just as they complete another lap, the better place of the two BMWs from Rover Racing goes through as well. So order chopping and changing. By the end of lap 8, Danny Yunkadea leading. This is after all the front runners made their first pit stop. He's got a margin of 6 seconds over the KCMG Mercedes. So that was the one. Just remember, the KCMG car, Neri Fukuzumi, that pitted 2 laps earlier. That means at the end of the race, its final pit stop will probably be 2 laps earlier than rivals. And they gained about 22 seconds because their first pit stop could be shorter, but they'll have commensurate pain at the end of the race. But right now, KCMG running in second place overall. The change came behind them with Jordan Pepper gaining a position. Car number 99 Rover Racing car. Nico Hanke falling back to 4th in the Shearer Sport PHX Audi that led the race in the hands of his teammate Christopher Haase in the first stint, and Matthias Drudy, best placed Aston Martin, in 6th.
Now we've got a code 120 currently just on the exit of Exmüller, going up to Bergwerk, and it's 2 cars currently. One is number 500, which is the VT2 rear-wheel drive class, which is the Adrenaline Motorsports 330i BMW. And a bit further behind that, I am seeing, although my screen GPS keeps dropping it off and putting it back on again, but it's intermittently telling me it's car number 8. If that is the case, that's the Uta Racing Audi R8 from SP9. It's the AM car with Alexei Vedemenko or Selv at the wheel of that. It keeps logging on, logging off my screen here. The only constant is, though, Bruce, and everybody listening, that it's car number 500 is completely stationary, Adrenaline Motorsport car. So whether the 8 is there or not, I don't know. I will keep you posted on that. I will try and just let me see if I can do a bit of an update on that. Now 8 appears to be moving again, albeit very slowly, heading up towards the carousel. Yes, it is moving, but slowly. So that's why it disappeared off that bit at Exmüller, but it's not going at pace, shall we say.
I'll tell you who is going at pace. So that's Danny Yunkadea settling in very nicely in the lead of the race. The Winwood Racing entered Mercedes. He took over from Max Verstappen. He was 6 seconds clear at the end of his first lap out of the pits. Remember, he came out in second place, got ahead of Nico Hanke's number 16 Audi. That's fallen back to 4th place and will lose further ground because he's not yet on the pace of those around him. But can Nirei Fukuzumi for now hang on in second place overall? But just again, that final pit stop for the 47 KMG Mercedes he's driving will be longer than those that came in after the standard pit stop sequence of lap 7. At the end of lap 7, and everybody and their best mate came in as well because they couldn't do 8 laps on their tank of fuel. But since then, certainly Danny Yunkadea pulling further clear. And I want to see what sort of pace Nirei Fukuzumi can lap in relative. Is he gaining or losing? I would suggest he's further into the stint, so should be gaining a bit. A car being towed along the Dottinger Höhe. Again, course vehicle, orange flashing lights on the roof, and the drivers accelerating onto that long run for home. They can see it from a long distance off, and the tow vehicles tend to run on the right-hand side of the track from the driver's point of view. That's the side where they can sooner turn into the pits, or if you've got a damaged car, drag it to the side of the circuit by some of the circuit openings and then pop it away. Just want to touch on Cup 2 class because that's always one you need to keep an eye on, and at the moment Well, we just had the pit stop, so it's a bit of a churn there, but I think class leader is car number 919. Just remember, these 911 GT3 Cup cars are very, very fast indeed. Of course, you can race them in any sort of Porsche Carrera Championship around the world, but they're very good around here. And at the moment, it's Robin Tranowski who's taken over, sharing with the two Judexes. So weather conditions still set fair. A little bit of a light white cloud, but blue sky is the important element. Not always a guarantee here at the end of early days of spring. Who's the unfortunate person getting a tow? Aerodynamic and physical. Kind of a 380 coming in. It seems to have wheels pointing in the right direction. No obvious panel damage, so I guess that's just a mechanical failure that will have that. No, it's an interesting car. You don't see the bitter name much. Remember, they made the CD Coupe in GT class in the 1970s, a road car, often doing with association with Opel, and that's just a slight rebodying of a standard Corsa. So just when you think a mark is not dead and buried, but just not in full health, they come back, but doing something a little bit different. So yeah, I did notice that when I went through the 490 cars entered in the race down the entry list. But Volker Strycek was racing that. Of course, we know him for many years for racing, of course, that Opel Manta with the Foxtail. But Volker back this time in a bitter Corsa. There we are, a little bit of history for you. Look back to your book of road cars from the 1970s and you'll find the bitter CD. Very elegant coupe.
So the Adrenaline Motorsport at number 500, 330i BMW that I said was stationary and ex-wheeler. It's stationary because it's clattered along the barriers quite heavily and left a trail of debris behind it doing that. So I'm suggesting it's not going to continue in the race.
No.
Also, the 910 number, which is the Schmillis Racing 911 GT3 Cup from Cup 2 class, has received a black flag with the orange circle for repeatedly not checking its transponders working. And that is vital for not just for timing, but for the officials. In fact, it's much more important that it's about safety and tracking where the car is, GPS on the track. Not just from us, our spectator view and our look wonderful app and timing for the drivers and the team, but actually for Code 60 infringement where you are on the track. It's entirely a safety thing. It's not Big Brother, and it really does need to have a working transponder for everybody's safety. If you don't know that car's there, and there's an incident on track, and Marshall step out to do something, all of a sudden the car comes you know nothing about, you can imagine the chaos that can cause. So that will need to come into the pits. It's had a one warning now. So what they call the meatball flag, apparently. It's like a big orange disc, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean come in for lunch or have a fricadella. Of course, fricadella racing.
Well, depending on how long with the chat with the park, of course, it might be lunch.
Yes. Yeah. But, you know, again, the Nürburgring Nordschleife is something cut from different cloth, I think we can say. And it's only when you visit that you realise in the middle of the circuit, what's normally in the infield of a circuit, a few buildings, here we've got the odd village here or there because it goes from one hilltop to a valley beyond, and normal life carries on in between, but there are
different postcodes.
Exactly. You add an hour, you go down, it's big enough to have, you know, many houses, have a supermarket and petrol station. That's just in the middle of the circuit. For most of the year, it just has its regular life, but the sheer expanse of this circuit, the real estate is huge, but it's a ribbon within a forest. Effectively, the ribbon of tarmac that Danny Juncadere is doing such a good job of. I keep thinking the weather's about to change. I think it's just certain points on the circuit are quite shaded, but then you come back in the full daylight. Not as much blue sky anymore, a bit more cloud coming over. Danny Juncadere, just want to see what his margin is over. It would still be Nerei Fukuzumi in second place. I can't tell you just yet. It might be Jordan Pepper who's going great guns in the better place to the two Rover Racing BMWs. It is Pepper, rather helpfully, just comes into sight on the start-finish straight. The KCMG Mercedes is tucked in behind the blue and white. It's long been the livery of KCMG. So they're now BMW up into second. Fukuzumi, that's Jordan Pepper, Nerei Fukuzumi down to third and fourth place. It looks as though, yes, it's not Nico Hankel. He's lost more ground in the Shearer Sport PHX Audi. It's Matthias Drudy, who's doing a double stint in that Aston Martin from Walker Horse Motorsport, and he comes across behind them. Now up into fourth place overall. Hank has lost another 10 seconds in comparison but still has 14 seconds or so over the 6th place Porsche of Patrick Assenheimer. Don't you hate it when you move from one season to another and a driver who's always been in Mercedes goes and drives a Porsche? Patrick Assenheimer, I'm talking about you. That was good to have stuff moving around, drivers experiencing different cars, but Patrick, so long a racer in the VLN as it was, and then it became NLS a handful of years ago, but he's a great driver to have on board. But right now, 2nd place in the hands of BMW. They qualified pretty well, the two Rover cars. But the number 98 that was put 3rd on the grid by Raffaele Marcello didn't have the best opening stint in the race. It fell down the order a little bit, but that is now clearly making its comeback towards where it ought to be in the field. But it's the sister car that's better placed. It's Jordan Pepper in 99 who's in 3rd, whereas 98, Raffaele Marcello, now on board, is down in 7th place.
We haven't mentioned for a short while 77 entry, which is the Schubert Motorsports BMW GT3 Evo Touring, which is still running around, still touring around in 14th place from years ago. It has dropped down.
It was in 14th position, but it's
opposite pit stop, so it's dropped down. Interestingly, I know there's some slight confusion. I was reading a report earlier this week on Sports Car 365 where this car was listed as a BMW M4.
It's an M3.
It's an M3, but it's on our entry list and on our timing screens as a BMW M4.
Interesting.
I know it's an M3. I'm just saying that there are contradictory reports. And you look at our timing screens and our entry list officially, it is listed as a BMW M4 GT3 Evo.
Okay,
and
right.
It was reported in Sports Car 365 this week as an M4.
Okay, we will take a look. We're looking at a BMW right now, and I can tell you it's an M4. It's GT3 model, but it's car 98, and that shouldn't be in the area that it is. It's being swung around. This is the car Raffaele Marcello had just taken over. It started the race in the hands of his teammate Augusto Farfus. Raffaele's done one lap, and the Swiss driver is sitting in the pit lane going nowhere fast. Trying to see what exactly they're doing at the moment, just refueling it. That's just confusing, because I was thinking, did he manage to eke out an extra lap? No, there are 9 laps on the board, and that means that will tumble. Luckily for them, the sister car, Jordan Pepper, as 98 is pushed into the garage. It clearly was out of sequence to be back in so soon. 2nd visit to the pits. You only need 3 in the race, but if you're having the 2nd after an hour and 20 minutes, that is too soon. Mechanical problem of some sort. Driver staying on board. Mechanics communicating with each other. Dolly Jack being pulled out from under the car, put back underneath. So a little bit of clarification needed there for Rover Racing as to what is untoward. But right now, not too many people working on that car at all. And driver undoing belts, and it's always hard to tell which is Raffaele Marcello's helmet, because he changes it, I think, according to the day of the week. But that'll be disappointment. That's over and out.
Well, that is a great shame. One of our front-running cars, cars that we've obviously talked about so much in the past, and great sadness to see that car out already. Of course, that was going to be Raffaele Marcello, Augusto Farfus, and Calvin van der Linde. Bit of an amateur lineup there, wasn't it? Even though it's a pro team.
Yeah.
I've been slightly sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek for anybody who avoids a doubt.
Yeah, one have they not won?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bit of there's a fair CV on each of those. Don't mind all 3 collectively, is it?
One of the things I sort of have endless sort of driver notes on my computer. When a driver's won a championship, I put that championship in bold. And when you look at that crew, they've got quite a lot of titles between them. Not just finishing in the top 3, but I mean, Augusto Farfus, he's been around a little bit. Well, born in 1983, but his first big championship was 2001. 24 and a bit years ago when he was in single seaters, and he followed that, which was European Formula Renault, but he's won so much. Daytona GTM winner, he's been a couple of times Intercontinental GT Challenge champion back with Nicky Katzberg, of course BMW, but he's been a BMW man for a very, very long time. Again, we're talking about and the Nürburgring 24-hour winner not so long ago, well, last year actually, as it happens, and Raffaele Marcello just won so many things, particularly in the GT World Challenge. Across Europe, Jordan Pepper, where he's an assistant car, Bathurst 12-hour winner. Kelvin van der Linde, Nürburgring 24-hour winner. But more importantly, the winner of the South African VW Polo Championship in 2012. But it goes on, but further down.
Started.
It is, but again, Bathurst 12 winner, da-di-da-di-da, Nürburgring 24-hour winner, da-di-da-di-da, several times over, Dubai 24-hour winner. You know, it's one thing to be competitive, but it's when you nail it across the course of a season, you weather the vagaries of form and fortune.
And it's not by coincidence, is it? No.
But again, we've talked about this many a time. So many of these drivers started, the ones at the very top, started off as single-seater drivers. That very much is the way that people went 10, 20 years ago. But a lot more now are coming straight into GTs, and GT4, GT3. But they brought that experience across. And some of them have really made it work for them, and some of them, you know, if you're banging the drum for single seaters, so you know, there's still that thing called moolah, money, that can ensure your career continues. Others, drivers of equal merit, if not superior merit, you know, they try but don't have the money, they can't move up the ladder. And the beneficiaries are we, the fans, and the commentators, and the people involved in the teams, because you've got all these tip-top drivers who've changed their course, coming to GT racing, and GT racing, particularly in GT3, has just become this global formula, championships all around the world. And it gives these drivers a chance to keep their careers going and keep all that experience and knowledge and passion. And also in the world of Pro-Am, we'll talk about Pro-Am in a minute in terms of this race, but it just gives people a chance to work with people who are coming in with money, who do want to learn. And we do have a Pro-Am class in this race. In fact, at the moment, Patrick Assenheimer, I said so much experience, he's not the AM in that crew. He's running 6th place overall, car number 48. And that's the Losch Motorsport Black Falcon Porsche that Tobias Muller started so well. And but Tobias is the AM in that car. The other pro is Dylan Pereira, multiple Porsche Supercup champion. But, you know, there is this element, and it's always been an element of sports car and GT racing, you know, back across the years. It didn't even have a name. It was a concept, but it wasn't an element in a championship. You had gentlemen drivers who came in, and they wanted a quick driver with them. And some gentlemen learn as they go, others not so much. But it's such an important role. If you're the pro, Snowy, with a person with a car, they want you to accompany them and help them go forward. It's not a given it's going to work. There has to be incredible work on building up the relationship and having the technical passover of knowledge and the ability to receive it from the other end.
Entirely so. That is one of the most difficult things to navigate in pro-am racing, because on paper, on the most simplistic form, your AM is reliant on your pro is reliant on the AM's money quite often to build the team and have that motivation, particularly if I'm motivated. But the pro's job is also then to get your AM as close to your times as possible without losing your mantle crown, if you like, whatever, of being the pro. So you've got to keep something in reserve, but equally you've got to keep them motivated, that they're not sitting there going, well, I'm still 3 seconds off, or whatever. So it's almost a poison challenge, but I'd say it is. It's a very difficult one to navigate. I've tried it for decades, clearly unsuccessfully.
But, you know, the thing about it, it's not just getting your driver up to speed, it's getting them up to consistency, isn't it? Because it's all well and good being, you know, you want to be able to, on a regular length circuit of, let's say, 4 kilometres, to lap within a couple of tenths, lap after lap. Here, obviously, that element will be, you know, the differential will be much longer, but you don't want to be quick one lap and in the gravel the next, do you?
We had a prime example a few years ago, 20 years ago, with GT1, and I won't name names, it wouldn't be kind, but of a driver that was very wealthy, came to us in GT1 and drove a very high-performance front-running car, and his times were not bad. He had no issue with intelligence or fitness. All that was done, and that's not always the case. Super fit, worked out for it, ready for it, mentally understood it. But his times would start, let's say, 5 seconds off, and be 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he'd do that one quick lap, and it would literally, we'd all sit there and go, and how about before it's in the gravel? And the problem was that we couldn't get, no matter how much we tried, we had a world champion on the team, which was quite some calibre, we couldn't get him to, he didn't understand how he'd done the quick lap. And that was the problem. That's where the real problem was. Not that he wasn't quick, was he didn't understand how he got quick. So did it become, was it luck? Was it bravery? Was it fortune? In not understanding it. And actually, you prefer a driver that's consistently 2 seconds off, but they know where they are. Because you know where consistent being the key word there.
No, exactly that. But also just the wheels beneath them change as tyres go off, and just understanding how to do that. Just had a fantastic demonstration of the intelligence that is required when you've got faster class cars coming up on you. The SP9 cars were coming up, and car number 155, I think it was. Yeah, it was the Plusline Motorsport BMW M4. That's a GT4 class car from a long way before it got to the next corner, indicating to the right. That is the way I'm going. You come by on the left, because they don't want to have their race ruined. But they made it very, very clear for the chasing car that was bound to be coming past. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm going over there, right? And you need that around here. You've got big battles on your hands, and you just don't want to be caught out. In fact, just as I was saying that, the fantastic battle with Patrick Niederhauser. We had the number 130 Lamborghini getting up to 7th place before the pit stops for Mirko Bortolotti. Patrick Niederhauser, very talented Swiss driver, has taken that over, but he was having to get a little bit busy as well, and he would have very much appreciated that BMW making it crystal clear that it was going to the right, come by on my left. Every time the driver does that for you, as long as they then do it, that's a big helping hand.
It's been bugging me, and I was going to clear the air of this on avoidance of doubt. The M3, M4 BMW Touring. I've said that deliberately, okay? It is an M3 Touring, because that's the body shell. All the tech has come from the M4.
The M3.5 Touring.
Exactly. Which is why, and I said that's why it's interesting. It is an M3 Touring body shell with M4 engines, front subframe, rear bits, suspension, etc. But that's why I want to point out, I read an article this week where it's listed as an M4, and it is officially on our engine list as an M4, and on our timing screens as an M4. It is an M3 shell with M4 bits in it. BMW will officially call it an M3 Touring. Is that clear?
Yeah, well, well, no, but for reasons that I could be wrong on this, but I think there is an M3 Touring in the real world for the road, and there isn't an M4 Touring.
Correct.
So there we have it. But that's it for now, children.
Car spotting with Bruce
Yes.
Berry.
Yes. Again, an observable contrast in the 1970s. Ah, yes.
Gosh, now you are bringing back memories of service books of birds. Yes, it's not one I thought it was.
I'd want it for commercial vehicles as well. That's right. No, but it's good. But, you know, it must be said it was a bit easier to car spot back in the 60s and 70s, because every manufacturer had a different shape, which certainly helped me into my world of nobiness. Conditions, weather-wise, it was beautiful. It's now still magnificent because it's an Nürburgring, but as cars work their way around the Grand Prix loop, looking back down, well, effective towards Nürburg Village with the mighty tower, it's grey over there, but as you swing left towards Hatzenbach and the western end of the circuit, there is blue sky, but definitely the bright blue day that dawned here ahead of qualifying is becoming a little grey, but in fact probably just falling into where it should be, and normally is around this time of year. Still, it's great. The days are getting longer. Races, though, are staying at 4 hours, which is good. So we're nearly an hour and a half in, and at the moment it's looking very good, neat and tidy for Verstappen.com. And Danny Juncadella has taken that over and is pulling clear.
You just mentioned Verstappen. Of course, he's not in the car currently. No reason why we can't just mention. But I just want to do a little comparison that somebody who we know only too well, a good friend of radio show, is Nürburgring Peter Kate.
Ah, yes.
Has just sent something just saying it's interesting to compare Max's quotes on the two different championships he's racing in this year. Okay, Formula One. Maybe some fans like it, but they don't understand racing. Yes. Okay, on the Nürburgring, it's one of the best races in the world on one of the best tracks. Yeah. Same map.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So I'm sure it'll all be sorted out in Formula One. But right now, it's irrelevant to us because we're here, and there's been some good scrapping, I must say. Very, very good indeed. Danny Juncadella, by the way, his lead is 3 seconds. You go. But it used to be more than that. Yes, it did. Because Jordan Pepper, the flying South African, has taken 3 seconds off him. It was 6 and a bit seconds last time around after 10 laps on the board. 3 seconds. Nico Hanke, remember his car just came out into the lead. He took it over from Christopher Haas, who had just been passed by Verstappen before the first pit stops. He is holding on to fourth place. You know what? He's settling his pace, but he is going to be caught very soon indeed by Patrick Assenheimer. Assenheimer right now on his tail, about a second behind. Fifth place for the Black Falcon Porsche. Assenheimer Porsche, still got to log that in my mind. And he's going to use his experience, not just with a GT3 class car running in the SP9 class, but also with back markers. Nico Hanke hasn't got the experience in the NLS that, and with this top class car that Patrick Assenheimer has. But right now, after the Kleiner carousel, the Audi's still in front. But will Assenheimer get his car well placed when they go through Gaudenkopf and then onto Dottinghoe at the straight? Looks fairly equal as they go to that long right hand, and then they get the long view ahead. Assenheimer, I'd say, didn't gain an advantage in terms of gaining any margin to the Audi in front, but now he's close enough to just eke a little bit closer with every handful of meters he goes, because he's just getting half a toe. I don't think it's going to be enough to get to him. He's getting closer. As you do, whatever toe you get will give you a bit of a helping hand, but then the track is going to cut to the left. Nico Hanke, where's his car? Right in the middle of the track. He goes slightly to the right, giving a little look at the inside line. And Assenheimer goes, I shouldn't have done that. Thank you very much indeed. I shall have fourth place.
Perfectly timed on the king, just lined it up to perfection, came out the right side, and there it was. You got no choice, and as we saw for the lead earlier on, you had no choice but to let it happen. Even though they were both diving into the pits at the time.
Yes, I know. Yeah, you really didn't need to do that. Now, one car we haven't mentioned, the Dacia, still with us in 2026, the Dacia Logan, a car of very different performance potential to our racer. It's been a staple in the championship, in the NLS for years, and in the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and it lives to fight another day. It's blue, and it's keeping out of the way, which is what we expect. But again, it's just a rich history that you have these totally different classes of cars racing, and it's for all the drivers in the quicker cars to make sure they let them stay there and play there. That was a good move by Patrick Assenheimer, and his next target was going to be a bit further up the track, because actually Assenheimer, as we said, having just taken fourth place, but he's, golly grief, 23 seconds behind third place, which is Matthias Drudy's Aston Martin, which just keeps eking its way forward. But remember a lap ago, I said Jordan Pepper had halved the lead. It went from 6 seconds to 3. He entered that lap, probably gone the other way. No, not probably, definitely. 9.5 seconds now. Danny Ugadea is clear. Traffic would have been an element within that, for sure. And it may swing back the other way, but yeah, in terms of their lap time, the difference between them hit 6.5 seconds. That is not, when you're dealing with the drivers in the front of the field, no driver who's a pro is going to lose 6.5 seconds, even around a long lap to another. So traffic has had an element within that. Certainly Jordan Pepper in the number 99 Rover BMW would have been frustrated there, but it may come back the other way. Now, another thing we need to throw in is that we're on lap 12. All the front runners came in after 7 laps. We expect this stint to be 8 laps for most of them. So end on lap 15 they'll be diving in. Some might do 7-7. And again, we come to the sliding scale of pit stops. The real aim in this race is to do your final pit stop as late as you possibly can. Because the later you come in, the shorter your pit stop is mandated to be. It's just fantastic. If you've been with us on Radio RSL 3 since the start of the race, you know we've got a touring car racing in. Not a touring car in a racing touring car way. Touring as in a BMW touring. You dreamt it, we built it is the message, and it's something different, and I'm sure there won't be a fan around the circuit with a phone or a camera taking pictures who won't take a snap of it, because it's something different, and we're fans, very Catholic taste in motor racing, as many different shapes of cars as possible. And I just think this is one of those cars that, people will make their replicas of it, won't they? If you happen to have a BMW M3 Touring, A, lucky you, and B, give it a paint job like this. No, don't actually, but just imagine it like that. It gives you a bit of ownership of something that's out there on the track. So again, well done. But one of the traditions of BMW across the years, not only is they race cars, there's been such a strong history of the marque, but also they paint cars. They put liveries on cars. You think of the ones that, remember the BMW 635s with the pretend cutaway.
Yes.
Like a cutaway drawing of the car on the side. You had the art cars, the Poulain cars that raced at Le Mans, etc., winding through the decades. And this is, again, something different, something clever. Much easier now. You can wrap a car than having someone with stickers and stencils, but it's something different. I'm delighted it's here.
And I've always thought aesthetically that the estate cars, especially the German estate cars, so Audi RSs, BMW M's, they just, to me, they just aesthetically look more appealing than the saloon car version. There's something about them, whether road or track. We used to have a Goodwood in the UK. We used to have BMWs up until last year. And when we get to the end of a session to do hot laps, you've got a range of BMWs. And people would just choose your customer and say, right, we're going to come here. And I'd always choose the M3 Touring, because people didn't expect it to do what it did, and it was perception changing, just as this one is on track now. Because you'd go out and they go, oh, have I got everybody wants to go in the M5 or the M8, and you go, come with me, and then they go, oh, in the estate car. And you'd watch people's shoulders drop visibly. Then you get in it and leave the pit there and just quietly talk about the car a little bit, and then just sort of describe it. So just we had a bit of speed in. And often they overturn blue, because they didn't expect a car, let alone a estate car, to go as well as it does. And that's the road version, so the race version. Fantastic. I'm all for it.
Absolutely. They probably thought we were going to pull over and get a picnic hamper out. Talking BMW,
the Labrador wasn't so keen because it was moved around quite a lot in the back. But
yeah, they're a bit slow thinking, aren't they? Right. Number 98, we talked about it in the pits. Raffaele Marcello and the Rover BMW, the second of their cars, is back out. This is the one that went better in the first part of the race in the hands of Augusto Farfus. Then Marcello just started his stint, came into the pits, wasn't too sure anyone was particularly working on the car. Then the cameras cut away, but they did, because it's back out there. But that would be a long way down. At this point, any chance of glory gone completely, but what is still there to play for is just under 2.5 hours of racing around this. Their big aim for 2024, of course, it would be to try 2024. Why would they be doing that? 2026 even. They'll be trying to take victory in the Nürburgring 24 hours, and also doing the other classics in Spa 24 hours. And so track time is absolutely everything for them at the moment. They lost a good lap. In fact, with such a long entry list, you have to scroll a very long way down to find where someone's placed. One thing we haven't really talked about was we saw him waiting to take over, but Frank Stimpler, Ford Mustang, 2 laps down at the bottom of the field. And mention number 30, that's the Korean-entered Porsche. We saw that being brought in on the end of a tow rope, Hankook competition car. That's not got the sort of score it was looking for. Just going to have a little visit. Still 9.5 seconds between the race leading number 3 Mercedes Miller racing car, decided by Max Verstappen. Danny Yunkade at the wheel. Jordan Pepper still in second place, Rover Racing BMW. Third place, Ray Fukushima, Japanese driver on board the KCMG Mercedes. But that is out of sync, because it will have to do its second pit stop.
Very strange for me to see the name Pepper and BMW alongside it. So used to being in a Lamborghini. So long, one of those things you just get associated, isn't it? But then again, it was the same with Stippler and Audi.
Yeah.
And Shearer. It was always cleaning Shearer's or PHX, whatever. And there he is in a Mustang. You know, it's we have to adapt. But it is. I keep looking up there and seeing it. Pepper, Rover Racing. Are you sure?
Yeah, I was just having a quick look while you were saying that. I was just thinking, having just mentioned Frank Stippler, not going anywhere at the moment. The sister car for Hout Racing team. Bear in mind, it's a really local team just across the road. Hubert Hout's team. The sister car, number 64, in the hands of young Norwegian racer Emil Christian Giavro, probably not how you pronounce it, is not featuring at the sharp end. That Mustang is 19th position overall, just behind Michele Beretta's Porsche. So it's got a few rivals in there, but yeah, for Hubert Hout, you'd expect it. We've had the Mustangs around for a few seasons now. Boy, do they sound good, but not going as well as they'd have liked.
Talking of sounding good, one of the things that isn't sounding so good is number 37 Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin GT3 Vantage. I think it's either Maximo Guido Dumoret, but it's just had a notification for its first noise violation. It is running down in 32nd at the moment, but that's a new one for me, and this far into a race. So whether something's happened to it or it's damaged its silencing system or exhaust system, well, it sounds obviously, but just an odd notification. But first noise breach for number 37, the Aston Martin.
Yes, that is an unusual one. Lap one, or even formation lap, you might understand that. Cracking battle at the moment.
Hopefully qualifying and testing.
Yeah. Because the big 9 is to his last 2 laps we expected it because he just hasn't got the pace as yet. He settles into the SP9 class. Nico Hanke came out in the lead, remember, ahead of Danny Ungedair, but he fell down to 3rd to 4th, running in 6th. Got a bit of a gap between the next lot. And then we've got Dorian Boccolacci, David Perel, who's having a really good scrap in his Ferrari for over 8th place with Patrick Niederhaus. The green Lamborghini tucked in behind him. And tucked in behind the pair of them is the Falcon livery Schnabel Motorsport, Schnabel Engineering Porsche, and that is Tim Heinemann at the wheel of that. So the Kondo Racing Ferrari, just been mentioning, driver on board that David Perel at the moment, South African. Remember, we had that running in 4th place early in the race, so it's fallen back a little bit as the sunshine goes away. The Ferrari doesn't want to play, so it seems a little bit. And again, through the double left of the Sabine Schmitz curves, the circuit looks great. The sun is rather fading to grey, but the racing is fading to absolutely not fading at all. In fact, it's brilliant. And when you have 3 cars, 3 different manufacturers going through hats and back, that's what it's all about at the top end of this field. And it is about the smallest of elements, the whole element. Conquer the Nordschleife, or one point, keep it on the island, and then you've got to play with the traffic snow.
Yeah, and I think also that's it. It's a fallacy and a dangerous rabbit hole to fall into. You never conquer the Nordschleife. I think if you get into that mindset, that's dangerous. You can learn it, but you can never stop learning. And it will, as you've said so many times, it always wins. It will, just when you think you've seen it all or done something, whether it be snow or sleet or rain or fog or whatever it may be, instant vehicle, car facing one way, running wide, as we've just seen, etc. You think that most circuits, most races, you get to know all that and you say, yeah, I've got it covered. This place will just turn and have a little laugh at you, give you a little version, just throw something else in.
Yeah, that's how it should be. Right, having mentioned
That's part of the appeal.
No, entirely. Having mentioned that the Ford Mustang, the one that's going okay in the race, but not where he wants to be, sudden side of Emil Christian Gierdom, he's all over the tail of Michele Paredes Porsche. So, it's been a cracking race so far, and it's very much advantage.
Hier gibt es keinen Raum für Fehler. Kein Entkommen. Nur Asphalt, Adrenalin und die Legende. Die grüne Hölle vergisst nicht. Sie verzeiht nicht. Jede Kurve ein Kampf, kein Platz für Schwäche. Die Nordschleife ist kein Ort für leere Versprechen. Sie ist der Ort, an dem sie gehalten werden. Engineered for the Green Hell. Offizieller Partner der NLS.
Die Legenden der Nürburgring-Nordschleife sind unterwegs. Und zwar direkt zu dir nach Hause. Dank CK Model Cars sicherst du dir deine exklusive Erinnerung an den Besuch an der Rennstrecke. Unzählige Modelle findest du auf ckmodelcars.de oder im Shop direkt in Adenau.
Liebe Fans, lovely fans, besucht uns auf unseren Social Media Kanälen, follow us
auf Facebook, Instagram,
YouTube and TikTok.
Willkommen bei der NLS.
Well, clouds continue to gather over the circuit, but we're going to have the run into the second of the three likely pit stops for all the front-running crews. But there's a 12-second margin at the moment from the Verstappen Racing Mercedes AMG GT3, started by Max. Now Danny on board, the super experienced Danny Juncadella, and Jules Gounon waiting to have a crack as well. The blue, red and yellow AMG GT3 going past a Porsche Cayman from one of the production classes, looking shorn of its wings because it is in road car form effectively, but that's not something you can say about a GT3 car. When you get a standard Mercedes and you put an AMG GT3 alongside, it just looks as though it's been down the gym an awful lot, hasn't it?
I was driving an AMG GT only last week, and it's a phenomenal piece of kit. As a road car, put it on a track. As a road car on the track, it's an amazing piece of kit. And then I was driving around thinking, I would love to have this on track. So we've got a very badly damaged Rover BMW by the look of it.
No, it's one of the Mustangs. It's car 65. It was the one that Frank Stippler went out in. We talked about cars.
So disarranged, I couldn't recognise what it
Yeah,
was.
we're looking at the rear end, and the fact you can see the rear tyres means there's no bodywork left behind it, and something has either crumpled into it. And again, underneath you can see the structure of the racing car. That all seems fairly square, but the bodywork, well, tatters, doesn't even start to cover it. So that's going to be rotated around. But this is a car that, I don't know if it was eventually towed back, but when you scroll down the scoreboard, it is pretty much right at the bottom.
That's just interesting. Our cameraman very kindly in the pit, they got eyes on that for us, as you mentioned, Bruce. And it's that's odd damage because there's a lot of damage to the rear of that car, but it doesn't look like it's actually impacted anything. I've gone off and done a lot of damage to the barriers and itself, and rear wheels pointed the wrong way, cambers and all sorts. So it does suggest, and the rear wings intact, it does suggest something's run into it from behind. So I wonder whether there's a yellow flag or something, or it's just slowed down for a back marker, as we saw, and the car behind has just been caught out. I'm speculating, but I think just looking at the damage, it doesn't look like it's been off.
No, it's been hit. It's taken a very long time to be brought back. It's now got 3 laps scored against it, which puts it right down very much at the tail of the field. But it took an awful long time, and I would think if that did happen on lap 3, bear in mind our race leaders are on lap 13. It's taken a long while for that to come back. The Sahara Racing team still have one of its 2 Mustangs in the field, but
you say leaders, we've got second, third, and fourth, which is Pepper, Fukuzumi, and Drudy in the pits, and indeed number 17 from 7th place. My apologies. I'll make that clear again. Start again. I'll put my teeth back in. Car number 17 from 7th place, Boccolacci in the Porsche, all into the pits. So Juncadella, it is in the number 3 Winwood Racing Mercedes GT3 out at the front still. Pepper, Fukuzami, Drudy in the pits. Assenheimer, Hanke still out on top. Boccolacci in the pits.
Okay, well this is interesting because that means Rover Racing
Lap 13, by the way.
have blinked. So they did a 7-lap opening stint followed by a 6. I would have thought you do 7-7-7 is the normal way, or sometimes 7-8. Or whatever you choose for your final pit stop. But Danny Juncadella has continued, so he's going to come in after the more traditional length stint, I would suggest, the end of this lap. But his lead now is enormous because it was listed as 22 seconds on the start-finish line. That's 10 seconds more than the previous time, but that was, of course, with Jordan Pepper slowing down as he went through, went into the pit lane. So I thought those chasing cars would have stayed out a little bit longer, another lap on the board. For 47, that was always going to be coming in because it pitted earlier, 2 laps earlier than its rivals at the end of the opening stint. That's come out now with Shode Tsuboi at the wheel.
Well, it might be the reason because we've got a code 60 at Brunchen, which is for the number 33 Kramer Racing Audi R8. Evo 2 version. That car is stationary at the left-hand side of Brunchen, so it's navigated. It's a left and a right and a left. It's navigated the final left and parked itself there. Whether it's just stopped or had something more serious, I can't say. I haven't got eyes on it yet, but I'll have a look. But it is the side of the track.
So that could have been a very, very quick call, couldn't it?
Exactly.
From Rover Racing, using all their experience, Jordan Pepper probably expecting another lap under his belt, but he's jumped out and saying Dan Harper's now taken over the number 99 from Jordan Pepper, and so he should. He's the other driver listed in that car, of course, but he did the first stint. Now he's back in, but I think they were probably expecting to do another lap. Very quick call, because any time there's a code 60, you have to drop that pace through the corner. It will cost you a lot of time. And if anybody is in the pits, they will be having a laugh. Well, hoping it's cleared up before they get to that corner after their pit stop. But that's shuffled the order a little bit for the KCMG Mercedes. Well, they were likely to come in anyhow, because they did their first pit stop after 5 laps and added 8 to that. So they had actually as long as they could have gone before they had to come in. But that has helped them a little bit, I'd suggest. Some of their rivals have blinked to avoid the code 60, but it does mean that their final pit stop, the third and final pit stop, will be maybe a lap earlier than planned, and therefore that makes their final pit stop longer than some of their rivals. Oh, so many variations, but let's just paraphrase. If you come in early for your pit stop, your first pit stop can be shorter than that of your rivals, but if you pit later than your rivals for your final pit stop, their pit stop will be shorter. So, it's yin and yang. You take the pain at one point of one end of the race and gain it back at the end. And it's really where it puts you in traffic a lot of the time.
And that's where the boffins, and I mean that in an endearing way, come into their own, because drivers have one view, and we always focus on the drivers, but it's team sport. And it's the boffins, I'm going to use that's a phrase. It's the clever people with the spreadsheets and the history and the knowledge and the experience that, in actual fact, they sort out what's going on. And I learned this years ago with an engineer who knew exactly how the car I was driving should be driven. And he said to me, and he knew exactly what I should be doing and how to do it. So told me how to. He couldn't do it and had no interest in it. And his view was, I think you're utterly bonkers for wanting to do it. However, I know what it should do, and I'll build you the best car that can do it. Then it's over to you. And literally look at data and just go, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And it was a huge learning curve, because you sat there and just went, but you can't do it. And you went, no, I know. So, but at the moment, nor can you. And you're the driver. Okay, yeah.
Okay, we have an answer about the Frank Stippler Mustang. This is from Stank. From Stank? I've never said that before. Frank Stippler. I've combined the letters and just jumbled them up. But let's go for this.
That's a new nickname now. There we go.
K. Kramer Racing, car number 33, spun in front of him. I tried to avoid him, so not to T-bone him. Touched the barrier due to this. So he didn't have rear end from being rear-ended. He got rear end damage from avoiding a spinning car. And just to reiterate, that would have been on the Nordschleife section. And as I said at the start of the race, it's very, very narrow. The track is relatively narrow, but it's the fact the area beyond is a blink of grass, that's all. A car's width of grass, and if you're going sideways, well, that'll take you no time at all. So rear end damage. So Frank, who's his record across the years, he's quick, he's consistent, he doesn't make mistakes, and unfortunately someone else's mistake has ended up him having no choice to damage the car, which he would have hated. And again, it's about building up your season. You don't want on the first round that counts to not be picking up points. Hopefully the damage was more dramatic in appearance than shaking the car from being four square underneath, but that would be really, really so annoying for him.
Always have to be a little bit careful about praising or eulogising somebody's particular skills, because by definition you imply that others can't. But I would suspect it would need somebody of Frank Stippler's experience to have possibly avoided less damage than that than perhaps mere mortals would have done.
Yeah, well,
he will have, in his view, he will have grazed it. Looking at the back of that Mustang, it's a bit more than a graze. Just tear the bodywork off. If the wheels are straight, carry on racing. The wings on it, get it out there. It's got 2 hours to go yet. It wasn't even halfway through.
Exactly so. But one thing about this, we've been extolling the wonder of GT3 running the SP9 class, because there are so many manufacturers now. It's a global formula. Don't forget, it's the secondary category within the World Endurance Championship as well. So beyond racing at Le Mans, all the circuits raced on by the WEC, but it's also variety in other cars you don't get to see too much. Just the inside of the KTM Crossbow GTX, long and low and red and very purposeful, very sort of sharp front and back ended. That's entered by Reiter Engineering, who basically have been KTM in terms of racing over the past decade. Nicholas Bourne, Arnie Hofmeister and Julian Apostolos racing now. And I'm a big fan of seeing something a little bit different. And for those who are out around the circuit or in the grandstands overlooking the start-finish straight, again, they'll be there with their programs and just looking at variety. And a lot of people might be going, what's that? Oh, number 66, can't make it out. You think, is it an SP9 class car? No, it isn't. It's not. That's not homologated for GT3, so I don't know what it is. But again, you go home, you look it up, KTM Crossbow, but the very low and mean GTX version. Yeah, good to see that. By the way, that we talked about the spinning K Kramer racing number 33 that put Frank Stipler off. That was the Audi. That was on the exit of Brunchen. The Brunchen, to my eye, is one of the trickiest parts on the circuit. It's just where you're starting to build a fantastic flow, but things can fall away. Interesting, this year we've got some new teams. Gomoto Racing running a BMW M4 GT3. That's car number 23. And at the moment it's being driven by Moritz Kranz. David Yarn started the car. And Antal Zigo, driver from Slovakia, will be the third driver on board that. But new name, actually looking very, very crisp. It's white with black and red swoops around the flanks and nose of the car. So that's something a little bit different.
You just mentioned Brunchen, Bruce, about the fast-flowing part of the circuit, and I mentioned about the number 33, Kramer Racing Audi being pulled.
Sí, es caro. Es mucho más caro que
Beginning of it, you've now got the 966 Porsche popped up.
These things happen. The NLS, it's all about variety. 4 hours of racing, as I recap what happened in the first half, and a packed field of cars, around 130 coming to play. The first round was snowed off. The second round, the very next weekend, that is good news for Max Verstappen because he came across. He was busy previous weekend, his day job, but this is his dream job in a way, the aside, the leisure pursuit. Racing around a circuit that's 25 kilometres, 130 cars, beautiful spring sunshine. The racing in the front is very, very tight indeed. A really fantastic battle with Christopher Haase in the Shira Sport PHX Audi, who certainly kept the Mercedes driver on his toes. Down to the first corner for the second group of cars, largely full of Porsche Caymans here, and GT4 class cars also having their early stages of the race. But good clean starts in each of the three batches of cars as they got away for 4 hours of play on the Nordschleife. Dry conditions, sunny conditions, and what a way to get 2026 NLS underway. This is the Barbarossa prize, but the racing has been very, very neat and tidy so far. A few fallers, including Frank Stipler, spinning to avoid, but right at the end of the opening lap, the number 16 Audi from Shira Sport PHX got the toe on Max Verstappen, and Christopher Haase, using all the experience, made the move to take the lead of the race. And a little bit of body contact. Kondo Racing Ferrari came out the inside of a rather hesitant Porsche car number 48 that has actually been driven very well indeed by Tobias. Well, that's the Losch, motorsport by Black Fortune car. It was the racing at the front, and just they got to the end of the opening stint, getting closer and closer. Max Verstappen caught and passed. Got in the lead in the position to October, but Nico Hanko, when he took over from Christopher Haase, unfortunately his motion was largely falling down the order as he gains experience, but he was racing against the real pros. Will have learned an awful lot in that. So good. We're at the halfway point in the race, but at the moment it's looking very good indeed for Danny Juncadella, driving at number 3, Winward Racing Mercedes, having taken over from Max Verstappen. And he should be in next time around to make a second pit stop. Has gone 1 lap longer than all his rivals. There'll be 14 laps on the board when he comes in. 7-lap opening stint. We have had an 8-lap stint from one of the crews, but I would expect to keep things even. That Danny Juncadella will bring that number 3 Mercedes in this time around. Don't forget though, with a lap of 25 kilometres you've got to be quite sure you know when your pit stop is going to be. And we've had times in the past, very seldom luckily these days, but you try and do one extra lap and you might have got your fuel calculations a little bit wrong. But I'd say a really, really good start to the 2026 Nürburgring Langstrecken series, because the track's in brilliant condition. The racing has been tipped off very tidy. One little spin of the Kate Kramer Racing number 33 Audi got it a little bit wrong. Frank Stippler's Ford Mustang took to the barriers on the exit of Brunchen in avoidance, but other than that, we've had a few little fallers, but the race officials, the marshals, the rescue crews have done an exemplary job. They've got things cleared up. We haven't had too many slow zones, but they're there, and as and when at various points things need to clear up, and it's absolutely crystal clear on a circuit this long. You may have course vehicles out there, and the drivers get all that in the briefing, but you need to learn your craft around here. Respect this circuit. It is, after all, the mighty Nürburgring Nordschleife. A circuit where you get clear track and you're at one with your car. You can find the most mesmerising of flows around the circuit. I can't think of anywhere that would reward you more. The scenery is changing, going from one valley to another, over a hilltop, down the slopes on the other side, and then of course you've got the mixture of traffic as well, when you have so many different classes of cars. So the drivers of the top class cars, which is SP9, those are the cars that are known globally as the GT3 class, are very, very quick indeed. And they come across other cars that feel quick, perfectly quick enough for the drivers on board, but they just don't have the performance, they don't have the grip, the aerodynamic balance and sleek approach that the drivers, the top class cars have, the ones that are made first and foremost to be racing cars. The others, of course, some of them are production class cars with roll cages and racing tyres, but they're not that different from how they might leave the showroom. But right now, I would say half the race done. A very good job by all involved, but just waiting for Danny Juncadea. Maybe he is going. Yeah, I'm waiting to see if he's diving into the pits. Not as yet, but we will have the swap round. So maybe they're going to do a 7-lap opening stint and an 8-lap second stint. Well, that is bold, but we know it can be done. We know. So you can get an 8-lap stint if all goes smoothly.
Yeah, so seven seems to be the target number, doesn't it? We saw Pittard earlier on do a 5. That's because they're just slightly. That's just a choice on strategy, because that's where they are at that point of the race. They're not challenging, so go for something different. And as you said, with the table and how it works, that you can then get a shorter pit stop later in the race. So they're putting something in the bank early in the race to pay dividends in the last half hour, which seems quite odd in the first hour, but its strategy is working things out. But I can't imagine this car doing another lap, to be honest. We'll find out any second now as it comes across the pit. And indeed, straight into the pits, the lead car, which is number 3, Danny Juncadea in the Winward Racing Mercedes, and Jules Gounon standing ever present, waiting to have his turn to play in currently the leading car, which of course this will now change. So it's going to be Patrick Assenheimer, is it not, that's going to take the lead, or is that too far down to do that?
No, Patrick will be pitting, Nico Hankel will pit, David Perel in the Ferrari, and Tim Heinemann. They will all be diving in, as will Christian Engelhardt, who's driving the other Lamborghini, the Huracan from Conrad Motorsport, because they can't go any further than an 8-lap stint, so they'll be diving in. So this means the order will be shuffled, but just remember, all the cars pitting now, they will be pitting a lap, in some cases 2 laps, later than their rivals when they get to the third and final pit stop, and that means their final pit stop will be shorter. So they might fall down the order now, but they know they've got something coming their way, something in the bag for that final hour of the race. But certainly the markers have been laid down, not just in terms of pace, but by intent from the Verstappen.com Winward